Welcome back to the JMP podcast. Now, we're kind of switching this up a little bit. It used to be a video podcast on YouTube, but that was a ton of work and I didn't really have time for that. So this is an audio-only podcast for now, and if it grows and it's successful, we can do video down the road. Now, one of the things that was kind of an issue with the first episodes of the series, kind of the test, if you will, about 6 months ago, was it was just me by myself talking about stuff. And that wasn't too interesting to listen to. So we changed that up as well, and I have my first guest, Andy.
Hello.
Yeah, so we're getting started. We're going to be talking about some of the stuff that he's been working on, and then maybe we'll go from there and just, get a feel for how this all works out. So let's get started. The first question I want to ask is, Andy, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of 3D modeling softwares. I have a 3D printer. I also do robotics, and I code circuitry, 3D print stuff for that circuitry, put it all together, and use that all to make things and build things that will build things themselves.
Yeah, so kind of like he's
robotics, actuators, kind of stuff.
Yeah, and he also makes a lot of content on that. So
I do.
Yeah, so where can people follow you?
Yeah, so you can follow me at _Iron Maker on Instagram, and I also have a YouTube channel, which is also The Iron Maker. It's a little hard to find. I'm going to be posting more content, so just wait a little bit, and it'll show up a lot easier.
Yeah, he's just starting out his stuff. It does a lot of content like other similar creator content, just focused more towards 3D printing and stuff like that. Not like metalworking and stuff like that, but
not yet.
Kind of like the hacksmith or that idea, J Laser.
Yeah, it's that idea, but I find those shows, and they are shows, I find them a little bit, I don't know, it seems too fake. Like, they do good stuff. They do really cool stuff. It's a little too fake. But J Laser stuff, it's a little bit too kiddish in some ways. And then the hacksmith stuff is, they basically just take tools that already exist from manufacturing stuff and whatever, and then maybe metalwork a few stuff around it, and then call it, a little bit more than it is. Which everyone does that, but I don't know. I just don't quite like the way they do it.
Yeah, but the point is you make a lot of similar content and ideas to that. It's just a lot, different style. You're making different content, but just so you know, like everyone else knows, that's the kind of the content that Andy makes over on that channels, those channels and platforms.
Yeah, so if you're interested in 3D printing or even just Iron Man, because that's my project that I'm working on, or circuitry, coding, Raspberry Pi, computer stuff, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So, that's kind of introduction of what he does. And he does all of his videos in the same studio that I work on for my channel. And it's been going great. All right. Why don't you talk about what you've been working on recently? Because he just made a video today.
Yes.
That he published on Instagram. Did you publish it on YouTube yet?
I have not, but I will do that.
Yep. Awesome. So what you were working on a project and there were some issues with it. Tell me about that.
Yes, so the project I'm working on right now is a full-size wearable Iron Man suit, and it's going well. It's slow, though. One of the parts is the helmet, and I have the mask automatically retract, powered by a Raspberry Pi, working on a battery pack for that, as well as some servos. And then I coded the Raspberry Pi to automatically boot with the program that I put in, so like the program to open and close the mask. I had it so that it will automatically run that when you give it power, and then when you close or exit the program with the escape key, it will shut down the Raspberry Pi, so I can just unplug power and not need a monitor or anything like that for a more mobile system, so I just don't have to have a bunch of wires.
Right, so you could just plug it in and have it work right away.
Exactly.
Without any extra.
And hit the escape key, and then it would just shut down. I could pull power.
But the problem with that...
Well, the problem with that is I did not provide any backdoor way to not do that. I didn't provide any alternative route to not shut down the computer. And I tried. There's no like command tab once it's booted. Like if it's hooked up to a monitor, there's no exiting. There's no shutting down the program. It has no alternative thing. It takes over the screen, and I can't access it anymore. Like I cannot change the code. It is now just that program. It's like if I completely deleted Linux from it and just installed my own operating system for just that.
So you basically bricked your Pi.
I did.
Yeah.
I very much did.
But luckily, because it's a Raspberry Pi, you can just reformat, reflash,
Yeah.
put a operating software on it again and start over. But the sad thing is,
I lose all my code that I've had
Right.
on it, which I've worked with that Raspberry Pi as my only thing for the past few years now, and all of my stuff is on there, which it's not a ton. There's like one or two programs that I really would like to keep, but most of the code there is either like random tutorials for Pygame, just random stuff, or broken code, and then there's also some code for testing out different sensors and some stuff like that, like a distance sensor or I just thought of one. I have a program on there for a different project, and it's like inverse kinematics, and it's like a super complicated algorithm, and it took me a few years to get enough math experience to be able to figure it out. That's going to.
yeah. So, you lose some things that you would have to build again, but you'd probably be better at it when you build it again.
It is. Most of the code there, because most of it was done when I was learning, because that's how that works. Mm-hmm. Most of the code is half broken or very bad code. Like it is not robust. It is not great. I've wanted to redo it all and kind of restart that, and I am forced to now. So that's fun.
So yeah, I mean, you lost some things in that, but
I did.
I mean, you're getting a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I was remembering when this whole thing was happening is that Pi has been running the same version of OS for a really, really long time.
I've thought of that too. There's many things that are outdated.
Yeah, so it's probably good in some ways that you're starting from scratch, so you can get a new software on there and clean some things up that way.
Yeah, and I actually did that maybe a few years ago or whatever, and maybe a year ago. I pulled all the useful files. I only had a few at the time. All the useful files out onto a USB drive, and then just reformatted the Pi and deleted everything else, and then just put my few files back, and then just had to resync some stuff, reinstall a few programs and whatever.
Yeah, but did you update the OS?
Yeah, that's what it was for.
Okay, yeah. But
and I installed some extra libraries and stuff that I was testing some things out. You always do that. It's like you install some stuff, and then rather than just uninstalling like 10 libraries that you used for a test project years back, you just restart it and not uninstall everything. It's a hassle.
yeah. So, disappointing, but I guess it is what it is.
Yeah. And most of the knowledge I need to, get the sensors working and everything like that, that's what's important to me for the Pi. All of that I can just look up again and then make it a lot simpler.
Sure. So, I think you're gonna make some tutorials on how to restart the Pi, though, right? I'm
probably gonna do one on how to format a Pi. There might be one or two good tutorials out there, like on YouTube, for how to do that, but it's always good to get good content out there for this kind of thing.
Yeah, and his content is phenomenal. You're doing a fantastic job with all these videos. Yep. If you want to follow him, you do that. It's gonna go places, and he's already got his first couple videos got 10,000 plus views.
On one of them, yeah,
one of them was
really well.
30,000 views. So it's your content's good. You just need to make some more of it and get out there some more.
Yeah, and I'm figuring out what people like and what does well, what I like to do, and so it's going to take a little bit for me to figure that out. And on top of all media content creation, I also have to actually make stuff, code stuff, 3D model, a ton of stuff that's really boring, and sometimes a lot of it's exciting, but to me at least. But
well, it is to other people. That's the same people that subscribe and watch your channel and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so I can film this journey, and I can show other people, and then other people out there who want to know how to do certain things, I can show them, or people just wanting to consume media, see what's going on, who follow and are interested in how it's going. I mean, there's tons of channels out there.
Right. So you're just making another thing with unique, high-quality content.
Yeah, and there's a few other Iron Man channels out there. There's a few good ones, but they're mostly into props. I'm doing it mostly for learning how to actually do the mechanical joints, all of the circuitry and stuff like that. I'm approaching it from more of the engineering side, robotics side first.
Yeah. Not just some party trick prop thing that looks
exactly.
cool.
It's not just from the outside. I'm building it from the inside out. Not just like, which parts am I printing in which order, but literally the joints first, then the panels, not panels and then how do we fit the panels together.
Or skipping joints and just doing black fabric or something.
Yes, I don't want any. There's going to be a little bit like in the shoulder area, but there's going to be a little bit of not mechanical joints like coverage. So there will be a little bit of fabric, but there is in the real suit. It is a lot of it's CGI, and so I'm actually going to have more of a suit than what they used in the movie.
Right, which is going to be super cool, and you're going to have the whole process and tutorials and how you did the suit, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, and for the final finish, I'm going to be hopefully copper and nickel electroplating it so that it has a real nickel finish, which most things I see out there, it's not. I haven't found a single fully electroplated thing. There's one channel, Alex Lab. He's in Russia. He doesn't do a ton of content, but he's the one that I've been getting into electroplating because, and he does good stuff. It's just that he doesn't have the whole suit. He doesn't have a ton of stuff like that. And then the other channels that do have full suits, they're 3D printing it and then sanding it down, which is good, and then filling it, whatever, just processing stuff, and then they spray paint it and stuff like that for the final finish, which it still looks plasticky.
Yeah, which your suit's not going to look like. So, yeah, that's super cool, and it's going to be awesome once it's done and to see that whole process for that project. And this is not the only project he's going to do, so this is the current one for the Iron Man suit, but
it's going to be a while.
He does all sorts of stuff, like the walking robot project you had a while back.
Yeah, and all of this is just so that I can learn how to use stuff. And all the parts that I bought for that project, it wasn't cheap, so some money was spent. But all of the parts that I got, I can reuse in other things. So the only wasted whatever is just plastic. So I can pull all the components out and put it in something else, and the only thing is plastic, which is super cheap for 3D printing.
Yeah, so that's super awesome. Again, go follow his stuff. It's going to be awesome to see that. I think at this point, we're just going to take a little bit break, go to a sponsor message, and we'll come right back and talk about some camera stuff from this week.
Mm-hmm.
This week's episode is sponsored by Artlist. Now, Artlist is the best place to go for all stock assets. So music, sound effects, footage, templates, all that awesome stuff is what we use here on John Morse Productions, and is also what you use on the Iron Maker. What has been your experience with Artlist so far?
It's been great. As long as I know the style that I want to use and the theme and everything like that, which is pretty easy. I just enter that in, and then it provides all the similar type stuff I want. I go through, click through a few, and then I find what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so you can easily find all the stock assets you need. We especially use it here for music, but there's tons of sound effects and footage and all that awesome stuff. So if you want to get 2 months for free on your annual subscription, check out the link in the description below, and you help support the channel at the same time. So that's going to be about it, and let's get back to the episode. All right, and welcome back. Now we're going to be talking about some cool stuff that came out recently at NAB. Now, if you're a filmmaker, photographer, you might know what NAB is. It stands for National Broadcasters Association, I believe. It's basically a trade show in Las Vegas. Release a ton of new stuff and a ton of new camera products and other things come out at that same time. And one thing I want to talk about that I made a YouTube video about like last week, and I want to talk about a little bit more, is the new Blackmagic Cine 12K. It's an amazing camera. So that's what we're going to talk about for a little bit. So you guys know, it's a 12K cinema camera, just like the previous 12K, but it has a large format sensor. And the craziest thing about this camera is the new 16 stops of dynamic range. Most of Blackmagic cameras have been 13 or 14 stops, and this is 16 stops. And there's some really cool technology behind that. So you want to say something about that? Do you remember what it was?
I do remember. So most sensors, the green channel is very hard to replicate and for the sensor to do. And so usually how they compensate for that is having two of them. So it's going to be RGB or RGGB. So like red, green, green, blue. Which the layout is a little different. I think it's like blue, red, green or something like that. It's different. But what they did for this camera is instead of just having two green, they had an RGBW, and the W stands for white. And so basically what they can do is instead of stressing the green channel with one or compensating for that with two, they just have a W channel, which is like the exposure. It's like the overall brightness. And then what that does is instead of stressing an individual pixel, you can basically bring the whole level down for everything and then just bring it up in the W channel.
Right. So it's basically allowing for the pixels to have a lot more dynamic range, because instead of just having the colors, the colors receptors, you also have a new luminance receptor, which...
Yes, it's like separating the definition between colors and the definition between brightness.
Right, which is how this insane 16 stops of dynamic range is possible. A lot of other, high-end cinema cameras are going to be using that RGB. It's the two greens. So it's RGB with two greens in a pattern, and having that luminance pixel is a huge advantage and allows for some really cool technology with their new. Basically, it's taking the full 12K sensor and still allowing for raw control even at 4K or 8K, which is a huge advantage. So you don't have to record 12K with the full frame. You can record those smaller resolutions and not.
And would that either average stuff out per pixel or samplage of like one in every few pixels?
Yeah, I think it's oversampling. So it's taking those 4 pixels, grouping them together, 6 pixels, depending on what the resolution is shrinking down to.
Mm-hmm.
So that it allows for that. Kind of like oversampling, like with the Canon R7 and other cameras that do that, but it still allows for raw control, which is something I haven't really seen before in another cinema camera.
Yeah, so it just takes each group of pixels and then averages out every single parameter.
Right, and because you have those new W pixels, you now have that luminance values that you never had before, which is how it's achieving perfect specs. I mean, 12K with 16 stops of dynamic range is the best of both. And it's also large format, which is good for anamorphic lenses and low light performance. I mean, it's larger than full frame with these insane dynamic range and, resolutions.
It's basically the same thing that, compare owls to humans. They just have bigger eyes, so they're just going to see in the dark better.
Bigger pixels, bigger sensors is always going to be better. And pairing that with high resolution of, 12K sensor with all the dynamic range is just crazy, and I'm super excited for the future of this technology.
Yeah, and all the VFX artists are going to have twice the resolution to work with, and so that's going to make it a lot easier for various purposes.
Yeah, and again, to low light performance is just a better camera in basically every regard other than rolling shutter. So some of these higher end cinema cameras have global shutter, which you can't really achieve with larger and larger sensors. So I think that's kind of the last hurdle for these types of cameras to achieve is super high resolution, 12K, and they're even the newly announced 17K sensor for later this year, which uses the same photo sites. It's just a larger physical sensor. So, I mean, you got the resolution nailed. I mean, 12K, 17K, do we really need high resolution than that? 20K, is that really necessary? Probably not.
Well, I thought of a purpose.
Yeah?
Yeah. Normally, that kind of K, you're not going to notice the difference on any normal monitor.
Well, no normal monitor is 12K.
No, and not even movie projector, or projectors in movie theaters and stuff like that. unless you're walking up to the physical screen or maybe a giant LED wall. But at that point, you lose perspective and you lose everything else anyway. So, Vision Pro.
Yeah.
Vision Pro, and I know headsets have been out and stuff like that has been out for some time, but like the Meta stuff, but it's not quite there. And I think Vision Pro is the next step. The other stuff was more of a gimmick, in my opinion. Like, oh yeah, we do VR, but it's useful in some scenarios. But usually, the more useful ones, you don't like. The more useful headsets are from certain companies you don't hear about as much in the media.
Yeah.
But they exist. They do high quality stuff, and they're super expensive.
Right. They're the professional stuff that you see in
They're the ones that Ferrari hires to design their cars in 3D space and building manufacturers for skyscrapers and stuff
the
like
real
that.
professional headsets, which is what honestly, which was what
Vision
the
Pro
Vision
was
Pro
designed
is
for
and
ish.
its price point is at that level. I mean, $3,500 is a lot more than $400 for
yes,
Quest
it's
3.
just now that instead of having Ferrari designers or even Volkswagen, like it doesn't have to be a fancy car. It just has to be big business. I think they're bringing it down so that more normal businesses can have it. If it's going to be a business, because if you can have a 3D workspace, it's not useful for just designing in 3D, although there's a ton of use cases for that, but you can also just use it easier just for 2D stuff.
Right. Well, and it's not. So the whole thing with this camera being 12K is not that it's going to be good for businesses. It's that 12K resolution. I mean, Vision Pro is 4K per eye, so you already need 8K.
But if you were to walk up physically to an image, just like the panorama stuff that they're advertising, where you can encircle your space in the image you took, if you do that, you can now utilize those 12K if it wraps around your entire field of view. Even if you're still seeing 4K, you can walk up to it and it'll have that definition.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Imagine a movie shot on 2x anamorphic at 12K, super wide angles all the time. So, like, it would go past your peripheral vision in the whole movie in Vision Pro.
And it would wrap around in 3D space, not just flat. It wouldn't distort.
It would be crazy. And you would need 12K resolution for that to work, because you need to be able to, have that resolution to look around and still have it look good. And you need at least 8K, preferably 12K, and that will go hand in hand with the visual production, the VFX that goes along with needing, high resolutions.
Exactly. It's just better all around. Even though you might not see it from normal displays, you can use it more, I think, on a 3D environment.
Yeah, and it makes production so much easier. I mean, when you're doing masking and green screening, and
it's just going to be more accurate.
It's more accurate, and that's the thing that, like, a lot of my work I shoot at 6K,
or at least less noticeable.
Right. Well, a lot of my videos I produce, I shoot in 6K, not because I'm delivering in 6K, but just because I want to have that capability to zoom in a little bit, or to do some compositing work, or whatever it may be. Even if it's just a lower noise floor from having more pixels, that's good.
Yes, and if you were to have me work on any animation or type thing, VFX work or anything like that, I would like to be able to have that. Even though you might not use that for most things, at least if you keep it consistent and just shoot 6K as much as you can, it'll still be good.
Right. And this, coming back to the whole this new camera thing, 12K has been around for a couple years now.
Yes.
But this is its true form of, like, good dynamic range, high performance sensor. It's got built-in NDs. It's got all the things that you need out of a cinema camera. It's got the new brighter screen. It's got all the stuff that the other one was lacking. So this is now a true cinema camera.
Yes.
Unlike the last one. The last one was basically a broadcast camera with a 12K sensor, which is cool, but it's not the same.
And I feel like it's more affordable in price. I think even though it's not, cheap.
It's 15 grand, by the way. 15,000.
Yes, but it's not the 60,000 or 100,000 with IMAX.
Well, it's not even IMAX. So we're comparing this, this would be in the price range and, performance range of a V-Raptor or of a, certain Aries,
Well,
that tier, which for the price point, this camera comes with everything you need but a lens. So it comes with the SSD module, it comes with the screens. So for the price point...
So I would say affordable for businesses. And
businesses, companies, movie productions. This is not your YouTuber's camera by any means. This would be so overkill for that.
I mean, you're not doing... Other than maybe Mr. Beast, but that's a different...
But he even shoots in 1080p.
I know, that's a different case. It's an anomaly, but...
For virtual production, like Corridor Crew.
Yes, I mean, they would use that, but
they would have a blast with it.
There's a very few exceptions, but for movies, for VFX documentaries, TV shows, that kind of thing.
Real production.
It is definitely nice that you're not spending $30K, $50K, $60K just on just base camera.
And the accessories too, like this, when you price out a Komodo, it's going to be similarly priced to this camera because you need a screen, you need batteries, which are expensive because of the red batteries or whatever. You need all the cards. And this comes with everything, but it doesn't come with batteries, but it does come with the wall adapters. And you can buy a battery and throw it on the back of it, whatever.
I feel like that's pretty small compared to the price of a lens or
red mini mags or whatever they use now.
Or just whatever.
Right, and it comes with the storage too. Comes with 8 terabytes of its own module thing that they have to use because it's 12K at 120 frames a second, which is another thing. 12K at 120. That's also a spec we've never seen before.
That's true. And so if you want to do slow-mo with high detail, and you want if you need slow-mo of something, because it's happening fast, but you need a wide field of view, and you want to have the higher frame rate, then you can digitally crop in with that 8K, and you can zoom into the area on the screen where whatever happens that you're filming, and that'll be a lot better.
Right, and it also does 8K 224, which is the highest 8K resolution that I've ever seen in slow motion, because the V-Raptors go up to 8K 120. So it's just like all around dynamic range, sensor size, frames per second, capabilities and performance and feature sets is just like the best camera I've ever seen. And it's cheaper than, the V-Raptor and especially Arri cameras starting at $15,000. And it's got a whole bunch of other capabilities and stuff too. Like it's got built-in Wi-Fi and it automatically uploads stuff to Blackmagic Cloud. It's got SDI, it's got Ethernet, it's got 2 displays. It's just got everything that I've ever heard of other than global shutter.
Yeah, and I feel like it's all the it includes all the features that we know of for, general purposes for using a camera. But I feel like eventually, because we're, a lot of the camera community, they're like, okay, what's next? Like if we've arrived 12K, like all these crazy specs and it's all in there. I mean, you might think, well, okay, maybe price is the thing that they're going to work on.
Which they will.
Yes, and they will. And, ease of manufacturing, whatever. Behind the scenes stuff, it's like, but what else is there to offer? And I feel like that's where Blackmagic Company, that's where they need to be smart. And innovative, kind of like how Apple was. It's like the iPhone. Okay, what does it do? You can call, but Apple found a way to have it do so much more, and I feel like that's kind of where we're at with cameras. It's like the flip phone to iPhone.
Right, so it's becoming less and less and less about resolution, frame rates, codecs, and more about how does this work with your editing workflow? How seamless is it? How high performance is it? How simple is it to use? How's the operating system work? All those little features that nobody used to care much about. But now it's kind of like the only place for improvement once we've hit these specs. Yeah,
and I just had a random thought. One thing that I kind of would like to know exists is, I know they kind of have it with like an automatic uploading to Blackmagic Cloud, but I would like to see a timeline on some computer somewhere, not just a computer, maybe a NAS or whatever, big computer system, and then the camera has a live direct feed into that computer, and there's a timeline open in DaVinci, and you can see the little bar moving where the footage...
It's just instantly uploading to your timeline.
Yes, a live feed, and it just keeps growing.
I don't think it does that now.
I know.
But it does automatic. You can live feed through their portal on their website to show clients.
Yes, I just
So
think
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting though. Like, as an event is happening, maybe you have half the footage in there. You've already edited most of it. You just need a few clips because it hasn't happened yet. And you have someone else out there recording, and then as they're doing it, you can edit it, and then it'll be, done.
I feel
and
like
ready
that would
as
be
soon as
annoying
it's
though
done.
on the timeline.
I feel like it would. That's where you need to have some features.
Right. Well, it already automatically uploads proxies in a matter of minutes or
Yes.
seconds to resolve. You can already edit it, and then it'll fill in those proxies with the raw clips according to the network connections. But this camera does have 10 gigabit Ethernet on the back, so you can just hook it up to a network, access point or a phone or something. There's many ways to do it. I mean, imagine, well, it would be kind of complicated, but you could get a wireless system hooked up to the back of it, and it does have high performance Wi-Fi. I don't know exactly what Wi-Fi capabilities there are. I'd assume like Wi-Fi 6, but we're talking like super fast network But we're talking about super fast network capabilities on a camera, and that's something we really haven't ever seen before.
Yeah, it's like, at what point, like, a camera's a camera, yes, but it's it's almost like a phone and a computer and a storage device and everything just wrapped up in one big box.
And all this is going to get better, and it's going to get cheaper. We're going to be seeing higher and higher frame rates and resolutions probably forever, I mean, if a camera company can push 1,000 frames a second in 12K, they're going to add that as a selling feature. And it's going to be something that you could now do with. And if they can make it smaller in a pocket style, there you go.
I wonder if the next breakthrough could be in, we've kind of pushed camera sensors almost as far as they can go. We never will go fully. There's always improvements to be made, but at some point the curve just slows down and you need some other technology to either replace or go alongside with. And I think the light capture
the W pixel.
No, it's like a ray casting.
Field.
You
mean light field?
Light field.
I
mean, I know it's kind of but I feel like eventually we're gonna have to do some kind of 3D because 2D sensors have taken us this far.
Light field cameras are extremely complicated, though, optically.
I know. Light field cameras, although they're super complex, I wonder if a technology similar to that would be possible.
Eventually, yeah. And it was possible 10 years ago.
Yes.
But it was extremely giant and expensive for cinema camera levels of performance.
There was like two levels. There was like the really tiny camera that was not great quality but still did it, and then they just kind of went too far.
They went way too far with like $250,000. Like, we're only building 2 of these, and you can rent them for like $500,000 a day. It was expensive.
Yeah, and the sensors were like a meter long, and it was just insane.
Really insane.
And it's like, there's no practical use for this.
And that, I believe, was revealed at NAB, which this camera was it too. So that's another thing is I hope this camera gets into production, is successful.
Yeah. And I think, 3D cameras, that's not a new idea, although we're getting closer. And with the new VR headsets and stuff like that, we actually can utilize that in a useful way. So I just think that's interesting.
Yeah, super interesting camera, and I'm super excited to see what the future holds with these kinds of cameras and technologies. I can't wait for pocket style cameras that can shoot 12K with 20 stops of dynamic range and 200 frames a second. Like, that's coming. It'll be here eventually. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. All right, so I think we've covered that enough for this show. I mean, what do you think?
I think this is a pretty good start. We're just getting started with this whole podcasting thing again. I mean, I started a while ago, and that was kind of weird. But
it was a test.
Yeah, it was a test. It was a good try. I made a solid good couple episodes out of it. Let us know in the comment sections on whatever platform you're on. You should be able to watch this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, even YouTube podcasts. Let us know any suggestions you have for this format or any other things we should cover in the future. I want to do this in the future more.
Yeah, and I'm, if you want to hear more about my projects, I can do that. And then, this is more of kind of a test-ish with, Spotify and whatever. And eventually we'll do video, maybe if it gets enough traction.
It's a lot of work.
It is. So for video compared to audio, yeah. And so maybe eventually, and then, yeah, we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, that's going to be about it. Check out our sponsors. I don't know exactly which ones we're running with this week, but they are in the episode, so you can check them out in the link below. Again, if you have any other questions, let us know in the comment sections. Rate this podcast. If you want to do that as well, share this thing. All the things that everyone does, share, rate, click links, all that stuff. So that's going to be about it for today's first podcast of the year, I guess. I think maybe I did one in January. The first of the new series of podcasts, the second season, the real season.
There you go.
Yeah, the real season. Hopefully, if this works out. We'll see. All right. That's going to be about it. Thank you so much for listening if you got to the end of this super long first episode.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. You won. Anyway, that's going to be it, and I guess we won't see you, and you won't see us, but we'll be back.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much.